So I was thinking about this and I realized that I haven't done a mock draft yet, so today is that day. I went to Tankothon to simulate a lottery and boy, I did not expect to see what happened, but I was perfectly okay with seeing both the NHL Tank Commanders drop a couple spots, so I went with it. And before we do this, please take the time to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to reach 5,000 subs soon, so if you enjoy the content, then why not? Anyways, let's dive in. So let's start this. And with the first overall pick, we got the Anaheim Ducks jumping 8 spots to take the crown. And to me, this one is a little bit complicated because they already have Mintyukov and Zellweger and Lacombe on the left side with players like Stian Solberg, Tyron Smith in the pipeline. So while Schaefer would instantly become the #1 defenseman of the future, maybe they're already happy with what they have on the left side. On the other hand, they picked McTavish, Carson, and Zegras high in the draft, and one of them should probably become their #1 center of the future at some point. They also have Gauthier and Troy Terry and Beckett Seneca either on the squad or in the pipeline. So personally, I think they are way more stacked up front than they are on the back end, so I'd go with Schaefer and maybe trade a Zellweger eventually or move one of them to the right side. It's not ideal, but I think there's a bigger gap on D, so I would go with Schaefer. So Schaefer is off the board. And at number 2, the Detroit Red Wings get a lucky break finally, and they get to select 2nd overall, also jumping 8 spots just like the Anaheim Ducks. I literally just made a video about Detroit's draft targets, and the entire point of the video was basically that they need to move away from the typical Yzerplan type of pick and go all in on upside and skills. In that situation, the Detroit Red Wings are very happy to select Michael Misa and deal with their center line depth later. With Larkin and Marco Kasper and Nate Danielson and now Michael Misa, they are loaded at C. One of them can move to the wing, and Danielson can become an elite third-line center that can move up the lineup when there's some injuries. What a pick that would be for them. It would change the outlook of the entire rebuild in my opinion. And selecting at number 3, we have the San Jose Shark, and they're not too happy about it. Their chance to build that blue line into an elite defensive core was stolen from them, and there's not really a defenseman who makes sense here at number 3. Maybe Jackson Smith, but I think it's maybe a little bit too early for him. But anyways, San Jose is horrendous right now at basically every position outside of the 3 young players in Celebrini, Eklund, and Will Smith. Everything else is just projection, right? So while they have a lot of young talent in the pipeline, they're not all gonna hit. So San Jose goes on stage, even if there's no team at the draft this year, and they select Porter Martin, giving them a chance at one of Porter Martin or Chernyshov or Musty to become that big, skilled, powerful winger with enough skill to play on their future first line. Next, we got Chicago at number 4, and they get none of what they wanted. The sweet dreams of a top-tier center in Misa or a big competitive winger with tons of skills in Martin to play with Bedard are gone. Choices are limited. Personally, I don't think Higgins is a top 5 player right now, and he's on the smallish side. They don't need another small player with good feet in that top 6. It's basically the last thing that they need. So I thought of McQueen or maybe Frondell, and I think I'll go with Frondell. McQueen has been inconsistent for a long time now. He missed most of the season, and he doesn't have that foot speed they usually like in their players. And Frondell isn't an impressive skater either, but he projects as NHL average, and he's put everything together in these last couple of months, and he's produced at an impressive pace, putting him over players like William Nylander. So it's not an ideal pick, I'd say, but he's got the feet, he's got the position as a center, he has a solid frame, he has very good skills, and he has the best one-timer in the entire draft by a long shot. And at number 5, we have the Nashville Predators, and when we look at Nashville's pipeline, it's all forwards outside of Tanner Molendyk. Nothing is really impressive or nothing that really stands out that projects really high in the lineup, so they could go 2 ways here. They either solidify that blue line with Jackson Smith, giving them 2 high-end top 4 options, or they could go with a center like Higgins or McQueen or Desnoyers here. I think they go with the guy that was full of promises but didn't necessarily deliver this season and pick James Higgins, a good pick with a ton of upside, which immediately pushes Higgins at the top of their prospect pool. And at number 6, Buffalo has a tough choice to make. Ideally, they'd go for a right shot D, but there's none available at this stage in the draft unless they reach hard for a guy like Murtka, which I doubt, but nothing will ever surprise me again with Buffalo, and taking another left shot D with Dallin, Byram, Powers, and Samuelson just doesn't make sense whatsoever. So I think they go with the one thing they don't have in their pipeline, and that is a giant 6'5" center with skills and power for days. There's many options here with Desnoyers, O'Brien, Eklund, and all that gang. Desnoyers and O'Brien seems like very good options too, while Eklund is just like more redundancy, but McQueen is unique. And at 6, it makes plenty of sense, even though there's a little bit of risk. And next at number 7 for Philadelphia, outside of winning the lottery itself, that's about as good as it's gonna get for them. They have the choice between two amazing centers here. Anyone who's been on this channel for more than a couple weeks knows that I'm not the biggest believer in Jet Luchenko for prominent top 6 role, so the options of Caleb Desnoyers and Jake O'Brien seems about perfect. Personally, at this point, I might take O'Brien before Desnoyers, but I doubt that it goes that way on the draft floor. So Philadelphia get a playmaking, two-way center with size and compete to match with Mishkov in the future in Caleb Desnoyers. And at number 8, we got the Seattle Kraken, and I think that this one is pretty easy. They already have Shane Wright and Matty Berniers and Berkeley Catton for top 6 center options, and I don't think that any of the wingers outweigh the value of a very, very mobile 6'3" defenseman who has game on both sides of the puck. If there's one defenseman in this draft outside of Schaefer that has a chance to be a first pair D, it's gonna be Jackson Smith. He's a bit of a wild card right now, but with some refinement, the upside is there. And we follow this up with Pittsburgh at number 9, and Pittsburgh is entering what will be a very long and painful process, and they'll need a little bit of everything in that pipeline. They have some decent forwards and some good defenders in there, but it's not like one of the position is that much stronger than the other one, so they can't really skip a tier to reach for a need. At least not in their position. So at this point for me, it's O'Brien all the way. Carter Bear or Lyndon Lakovic could also be options here, but I just think that the 6'2" center with phenomenal playmaking skills and one of the best shooting percentage in the entire OHL is the right choice to make here. Personally, I wouldn't hesitate, but if they wanted a mix of skill and ferociousness, if that's a word, Carter Bear could be an amazing pick here too. And next we follow this up with Boston, and they get to do something that they haven't done in a while, and they get to pick in that top 10. I think Boston should use this opportunity to pick a player that can play to their identity. Victor Eklund is one of them, and so is Carter Bear. Eklund is consistently ranked above Carter Bear, and he's been very impressive with Djurgården in the Allsvenskan. I'd even say he's been in the driver's seat on that line with Anton Frondell, so both choice seems like a good selection, but I think the upside is higher with Eklund, so Boston pick Victor Eklund at number 10. And at 11, we got the Columbus Blue Jacket, and they got the opportunity to add even more talent to their pool, even though they are getting really close to becoming a constant playoff team with still some very solid players in the prospect pool like Kenan Lindstrom, Morelli, Brinley, and all these guys. I think Columbus keeps on forward after taking Lindstrom and Fantilli back-to-back and grab a player like Radim Mertka, a 6'6", right shot D who can move the puck and can move his feet for a guy of his size and age, even though he's still looking for some coordination in there. Not the most exciting pick, but it fits. The team is not in need of anything special in my opinion, and it's too early to reach for a goalie, so they take a guy who's a bit of a project but with solid two-way top 4 upside. And at number 12, we got the Rangers, which is weird considering just how good they were last year, but I sure ain't against them falling and falling and falling forever. Just joking, maybe not. But anyways, if I told you that their best and most cherished defensive prospect are EJ Emery, who has 1 point in the NCAA as a soon-to-be 19-year-old, and Drew Fortescue, would you think that they need to focus there? Yeah, I think so too. So here they could go two-way. They could go with a right shot with Logan Hensler, or they could go left shot with a player like Keishan Aitchison. And personally, I think they go with Aitchison. He's basically a Trouba 2.0, not a skill guy, even though he can shoot the puck and move the puck adequately, but they take him for his overwhelming defense and physicality and his constant post-whistle disturbance. I think it's one hell of a fit, and I think it's one hell of a pick. And at number 13, it's the Islanders, and I have no clue what they want. I really didn't think they would go for Yzerman last year, and they did, so I just really don't know. But one way or another, they need everything in their pipeline, and I think that's about as far as Carter Bear is gonna fall considering his Achilles injury. So if Bear is available to them, I think they go for him and add a nice piece to their prospect pool. And at number 14, we have the Utah Hockey Club, who's a team on the way up with plenty of very good pieces, both in the NHL and in the pipeline. They don't seem to have any screaming needs, with strong replacement at basically every position. I could see two potential scenarios here, whether they go with size like they love to do and add a 6'4" winger with tons of speed and skill in Lyndon Lakovic, or they add a center with skills and grit in Brady Martin. I think because they already have Cole Baudouin as a center with grit, even though he's not as skilled and good offensively, I don't think they can pass on adding another giant to the pipeline. So with Simashev and Daniel Booth and Lamoureux and now Lakovic, they are set for the future in size and skill. And at number 15, we have the Vancouver Canucks, who are in a bit of a bad position. Like, they're pretty bad. They're not terrible, but they're pretty bad, and they got worse. But they're not bad enough to sink, and their pipeline isn't really strong enough to help them in the future, putting them in a position where they're kind of stuck in the middle somewhere, which is the worst place to be in the NHL. Considering they don't really have any centers in their pipeline outside of Atu Radi, who, even though he has very good numbers in the AHL, the NHL seems like it's going to be a little bit of a problem for his foot speed, and I'm not sure his hockey sense can really save him there. We'll see. So either one of Braden Coots or Brady Martin makes sense here. Personally, I'd go with Coots because I think the skill and the pace is more evident, while Martin's grit is more evident. It depends on what they value more, but I think they go with Braden Coots. It makes a ton of sense. And at number 16, we got the Montreal Canadiens, and as a result of the most complicated trade condition in the NHL history, Montreal get to pick 16 with Calgary's pick. Montreal preferred choice would be either a center or a right shot D because they are loaded with wingers, or centers who project 50-50 as wingers like Michael Hage or Kirby Dach in the NHL. I like Brady Martin a lot. I think he's a better option than all third-line center option of the future for Montreal like Beck or Kapanen, and I also think he has top 6 upside with his creativity and deception if he can put it all together with some pace in there. On the other hand, there's Logan Hansler, who looks like a completely different player right now compared to the first half of the season. He's a great skater with size and an assertive game on both sides of the puck. Now, I started really disliking his game in the first half and wondered what would be his role, like what's his game all about, and I had no answer, but he really picked it up lately, and he's looking more and more like a solid top 4 and a solid pick. I think I'm gonna go with Hansler because a very mobile top 4 two-way right shot D is just that much more hard to acquire than a most likely middle 6 center. So there you go. I think this mock draft makes a lot of sense, and I hope you enjoyed. And obviously the season is not finished, and when I rolled this Tankothon thing, it was like 2 or 3 days ago before I published this video on YouTube, so things might have changed, but that's the way they were when I rolled it. So as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one, and peace.